All right, welcome back, Focus Learners. Let's just jump right into it, shall we? Today's explainer takes us all the way back to the turn of the millennium to dissect one of the most agonizing, dramatic single-season collapses in English football history. We're talking about Coventry City's 2000-2001 campaign. We're going to break down the data, the transfers, and the absolute on-pitch heartbreak that brought down a true institution of the English game.
Okay, let's dive into this. 34. I really want you to just take a second to appreciate that staggering number. 34 represents the number of consecutive years Coventry City had spent in England's top flight. I mean, ever since their promotion back in 1967, they were a total fixture in the elite division. Throughout the 90s, the Sky Blues actually became famous for these miraculous, narrow escapes from relegation. But as we're about to see, every miracle run eventually runs out of magic.
You know, to really understand the gravity of this collapse, we actually have to start at the bitter end. May 5, 2001. Picture it, a massive away day at Villa Park. Coventry City are fighting for their absolute lives, and they go up 2-0 in the first 10 minutes. But they just couldn't hold on. A brutal 3-2 defeat mathematically confirmed them relegation and officially ended that incredible 34-year era. It was absolutely devastating. So how did a team with such a pedigree for survival find themselves in this spot? Let's rewind the clock and see exactly how they got there.
Chapter 1. The Summer Rebuild. Ambition or Hubris.
So, heading into the season, the club made a very deliberate decision to balance the books and restructure the squad. They brought in roughly £15.2 million in revenue by selling off some massive talent, and then reinvested about £12.5 million of that into a brand new attacking lineup. Now, on paper, hey, that looks like pretty smart, sustainable business, right? But as we all know, football is played on grass, not on a spreadsheet. Let's look at who actually walked out the door. The biggest shockwave by far was losing their 20-year-old star striker Robbie Keane to Inter Milan for a club record £13 million. Then, on top of that, their veteran captain and midfield general, Gary McAllister, leaves on a free transfer to Liverpool. Plus, Noel Whelan was sold to Middlesbrough. Losing Keane's lethal goal scoring and McAllister's irreplaceable leadership, that created a massive vacuum in the squad. That is a whole lot of spine and character literally walking out of the dressing room all at once.
And this brilliantly illustrates how they tried to fill that vacuum. Manager Gordon Strachan broke Coventry's transfer record to bring in 21-year-old Welsh forward Craig Bellamy from Norwich City for £6.5 million, really hoping his explosive pace would replace Keane. They also snagged David Thompson from Liverpool and young prospect Jay Bothroyd from Arsenal. The strategy was super clear: inject youth, speed, and creativity. But going into a grueling Premier League season, you really have to wonder if they sacrificed way too much proven experience to get it.
Chapter 2. The Slippery Slope. A mid-season collapse.
Well, the optimism of that summer rebuild pretty quickly met the grim reality of the winter schedule. In August, things actually kicked off with incredible promise. They grabbed back-to-back 2-1 away wins against Southampton and Manchester City. Bellamy even scored on his debut. But by October, the wheels completely fell off. They traveled to Stamford Bridge and got utterly humiliated 6-1 by Chelsea. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank scored 4 times, Chris Kirkland scored an own goal. It was rough. That thrashing completely shattered their defensive confidence. By January, they had spiraled into this awful 8-match winless streak that they just could not shake.
Just look at how fast things can unravel. From December to the end of January, Coventry managed just 2 measly wins. They plummeted straight down into the relegation zone. And honestly, this is a crucial lesson for anyone following sports analytics. Momentum in the Premier League is basically like quicksand. Once you lose your form, the injuries start piling up, confidence drains, and clawing your way out of the drop zone becomes this monumental psychological hurdle.
Naturally, all those struggles on the pitch bled directly into the stands at Highfield Road. Tensions were mounting over the club's growing debt and the board's decisions. Fans started protesting. The atmosphere became incredibly toxic and divisive. It got so bad that Gordon Strachan actually revealed the intense fan abuse had deterred his own family from showing up to matches. When the environment is that heavy, pulling off a relegation escape becomes infinitely harder.
Chapter 3. The Final Heartbreak at Villa Park.
So, the crucial point is understanding the sheer emotional roller coaster of this specific deciding match. Step 1. Coventry comes out absolutely flying. Mustafa Hadji scores a stunning brace in the 5th and 6th minutes. They're 2-0 up inside 10 minutes. Hope is completely alive. But then, step 2, Aston Villa regroups and mounts a ferocious second-half comeback, equalizing through Darius Vassell and Juan Pablo Angel. And finally, step 3. Paul Merson twists the knife with a late winner for Villa, a 3-2 defeat. The whistle blows and poof, 34 years of history just evaporate.
Chapter 4. By the Numbers. A Statistical Postmortem.
Zooming out from the pure emotion for a second to look at the hard data, just look at how razor-tight the margins are at the bottom of the table. Coventry City finished 19th with 34 points. Now look right above them. Manchester City also finished with 34 points. Coventry didn't go down because they were drastically outpaced in points. They went down because of a slightly worse goal difference. Literally a margin of just 3 goals separated 18th from 19th. Every single mistake during that entire season compounded into this exact result.
The core issue becomes glaringly obvious when we look at their match record. 8 wins, 10 draws, and a massive 20 losses. That leaves them with a paltry 21% win rate. I mean, you simply cannot maintain elite division status winning only 1 out of every 5 games. It's just not going to happen. Even their home form, which historically used to be an absolute fortress for Coventry, yielded only 4 wins all season long. And remember that goal difference that ultimately doomed them? It was -27. They scored only 36 goals across the entire year, while conceding a massive 63. This metric alone paints the perfect picture of a team that was just fundamentally unbalanced. They lacked the firepower to outscore opponents, and they lacked the defensive rigidity to hold onto those tight games.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the complete absence of a dominant talisman. Take a look at their top scorers for the league campaign. Craig Bellamy got 6. Midfielder Mustafa Hadji got 6. John Hartson, who by the way only arrived mid-season in February on a pay-as-you-play deal, also got 6. Despite breaking their transfer record for Bellamy, no single player could step up and replace the sheer volume of output they lost when they sold Robbie Keane. They spread the goals out, sure, but the total volume was nowhere near enough to survive.
And on the other end of the pitch, well, it was a defensive disaster. Despite the absolute best efforts of veteran Swedish international Magnus Hedman and young prospect Chris Kirkland in goal, the defence in front of them was just far too fragile. Coventry recorded just 6 clean sheets across the entire 38-game campaign. You simply can't survive in the Premier League if you are practically guaranteeing the opposition a goal in 32 of your 38 matches.
So, as we wrap up today's explainer, I really want you to weigh the evidence we've just looked at. What truly doomed Coventry City? Was it that ambitious but ultimately flawed summer transfer strategy that gutted their leadership? Was it the insanely leaky defense that just couldn't keep a clean sheet? Or is the harsh reality of sports just that eventually, if you flirt with relegation long enough, time simply runs out on the miracle? It's such a fascinating look at the fragility of sporting legacies. Think about it and keep analyzing the beautiful game. Thanks for learning with me today.